For those who don't know me, I'm Kshitij Sohag. I'm the VP events of the Energy Club, and I have a background in oil and gas. I used to work for Shell P&T, evaluating upstream and downstream projects, doing estimation and risk management. And I'm here at MBS now. So today with us we also have Giorgio Delpiano. He's the general manager for the Shell car business for Western European heartlands, and he's managing a turnover of greater than $10 billion and leading an organization of more than 250 individuals at this point of time. Also, he's an MBA from London Business School.
Yay.
Furthermore, with us we also have Raju Patel, who is an MBA in 1998. He's also on the Alumni Advisory Council of the Energy Club, and he's the founder and CEO of Fulcrum, which is a niche strategy consulting firm for oil and gas and financial services. So we welcome Giorgio and Raju both. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Well, it was a nice and warm welcome. Thank you so much. So, Giorgio Delpiano, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Russian. No. Italian. Unfortunately, my accent gives me away. And actually, I'm from the countryside. So the village of my dad is the village you see on the top right, in the northern west part of Italy. And I'm a mechanical engineer. That's how I ended up in Shell. I wanted, at the times of Senna and Prost, I was working in my studies in mechanical engineering because I wanted to work in Formula One. Didn't work out, but I then discovered that Shell was working in Formula One. So I said, okay, maybe that's as close as I can get. But the dream lasted very few minutes because I ended up working at Shell, kicking drums, literally, working in the lubricants business, in sales and marketing, and driving sales by checking by the sound of the drums whether there was time to place an order for our great lubricants. And after a few years in Italy and Spain, I ended up in London working mostly in strategy. And that's where I did my MBA at London Business School. And now I am running the commercial, what we call the commercial fleet business, that in customer speak is the fuel card business of Shell, which is about $10 billion turnover business, and we operate in what we call the heartlands, which is any country west of the old Iron Curtain in Europe. So we have a lot of nice, interesting customers that might not strike as necessarily top of mind. Angela Merkel is one of my customers. She needs fuel for her cars, and she has to pay for it with a Shell card. And guess who is buying fuel with his scooter with a Shell card? François Hollande. So the business that I run really has a lot of, not scooters, a lot of customers of different shapes, size, operations. But whenever there is a business that needs fuel, that's where you will find me and my organization. And that's a bit what I'm going to talk today about customers, which is not something very popular in the education of LBS. And so why we should talk about customers, right? Does it matter? Because if you look at, if you do a word cloud, you just copy-paste the web page of LBS and dump it in one of these word cloud sites. This is what you get. MBA, experience, program, business, good business. So there is something about business. But there isn't the word customer. Actually, there is Saatchi, which is quite preeminent. I don't know why. But customer is not there. So that is maybe a challenge that I'm happy to bring to LBS, right? Where should we talk a bit more about customer because we are a business school. And if you look at the customers, at least how I see it and how most of the businesses, the successful businesses see it, the customer really are at the heart of the business. But because we are at LBS, I want to put a question. Who knows this man? Peter Drucker. Well done, Raju. You went to your class and you remember it. And he was asked, why companies exist? And he had a quite simple definition, which is what you see here, which is companies are defined by the customer. they're not really defined by who they are, their brand, their processes, their products. They're defined by the customers. That's why customers are important. And that's why I would like to share with you maybe some of what I've learned about how to get the customer within an organization, inside the organization. But before we go there, I think it might be interesting to just reflect on who are the customers. And typically, you would say that a quite narrow definition is the customer, whoever is paying the bill. Not always people who keep the tab is finally enjoying your services. But typically, if you want to make it very simple, the customer who pays the bill. That's why at LBS, you are the customers from a simple perspective. But in more complicated businesses, especially in the business-to-business world, you have a broader definition of customers. So customers really are people who pays the bill, but as well those who use your product. So in my business, the customer who pays the bill is the finance manager of a business. He might have a million or 2 million pounds per month of fuel, but the user who uses the product and gets the fuel in their car is as well a customer. And all of them have an interaction in creating the perception of what the company stands for. So if customers are important and we know who they are, so how do we actually please them? How do we make a difference for them? And there are two schools of thought. The vinegar school of thought is that you need to please customers because if you don't please them, someone will do it. So you are forced to do it. Otherwise, your competitors will do it, and they will do it better than you. That is one school of thought. The honey school of thought is a bit different. It says you please the customer because you want to do it. You feel like doing it. Your business is inclined to do it. I am on the honey school of thought. I believe that the mission of a business is pleasing customers, making the best effort for them, rather than because someone else is doing it. So if the customers are really everything for the company and are really what the reason that of a business, so why is that important? Because obviously it can be great to say we want to please all the customers. So this is what we stand for. But does it make business sense? I know you are very hard-nosed students here that really want to know what's the need for the business. And you definitely have heard that if you want to sign a new customer, and I can tell you that's true, you make 6 times more effort than actually retaining a customer. So typically, pleasing your customers, trying to keep them under your books is something that takes much less effort than getting new business in through your doors. The second is that if you look at, this is my business, and about 200,000 customers, so globally. And on the top line, you see the volume that these customers are buying with my card. And on the bottom line, you see the margin which we extract from these customers. And you typically, in a standard customer satisfaction scores, you can classify customers. So any customer which gives you a score less than 6 is called a detractor. He is likely to not be satisfied with your service, but if at the dinner table, he's likely to say, you know what, I don't really like BP. Then the promoters are those customers that give you 9 and 10. At the dinner table, they say, you know what, I really love Shell. That's what I like to hear. So the promoters typically will drive more and more business for you. They will bring business, and will help you to acquire more business, and will help you to make more margin out of that interaction. The detractors will, over time, move, but as well will force you to lower the income and the profitability from that segment. So it's not only obviously great and defining the business as such, but to have a proper customer focus has a big business value. And listen to these statistics. So 80% of companies say that we are delivering a great customer experience. 80%. 8% of customers are saying we are enjoying a great customer experience. So 80% are wishing to deliver this experience, but only 8% really feel this great experience. And so what's going on? So why, right? So is there a bit of a mismatch between what is delivered or perceived to be delivered and what actually is happening? And it boils down, at least from my perspective, my experience, around two main reasons. One is about the passion which is within the organization to actually deliver this superior customer experience. And the second is the commitment of the company, of the business, to deliver this customer experience. If you will find a lot of mission statements, books about how important it is to deliver customer experience. Everybody is obviously, because of what we said, very keen to do it. But the commitment, the real commitment, when it really boils down, are we doing it, is not always there. That's why you have this big mismatch between customers and what they see, they receive, and the companies and what they think they deliver. Any questions at this stage? No. Yes. Keep going. So, well, we are at LBS. There was one of my professors, and a person I have a big respect, called Sumantra Ghoshal. He had this concept of the smell of the place that obviously I'm sure you're familiar with, or you have heard in multiple classes and multiple events. And he was saying, there is four main things which actually characterize a company which has the right smell of the place. Stretch, discipline, trust, and support. And I have tried to, I like that concept. I think it's very relevant. So companies where you come in and you feel there is the right smell of the place, you feel that they are delivering a superior customer experience. And stretch is the first part. So what you see is that companies that struggle with customer experience typically are not really using the full capability of their employees to deliver this experience. They tend to have more standard processes. They tend to enforce procedures which somehow hinder the capabilities of their employees to deliver a superior customer experience. And the other part is that when the organization, when you want to create that stretch, that ambition, in our case at Shell, we have an ambition to deliver customer satisfaction of 8.5 out of 10, which is for a B2B operation very high. That's our stretch, and in my region, well, we are at 8, so we are getting close. We used to be 7.5, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, maybe 7, 4 years ago. So this stretch, this ambition to deliver superior customer experience is there, but as well is very much connected with the leadership of the business. And what you see is that in an operation which is customer focused, there is smell of the customer. If you go, and I like a lot going to Pret-a-Manger here in London. You see a lot of there are a lot of opportunities because they are everywhere now, opening a Pret-a-Manger in the toilet of a Pret-a-Manger. And what is great there that if you look at the people, you look at the well, there is smell of coffee, of course, in Pret-a-Manger, but if you look at the people there, you can feel that there is this commitment, and it's not enforced into people. They are there because they feel that it's the right thing to do. The second part is discipline, and in discipline, what you see is that to get an outcome from a customer which is really superior, you must have consistency. So it's a bit like an orchestra, right? You cannot have everyone who is committed in delivering this customer experience playing their own tunes, because otherwise it's a disaster. If you really want to get a harmonic and a great music experience, everybody needs to be disciplined in delivering that experience. And that means as well that if in a case like me, it means that the orchestra and everyone has to be a commitment to deliver this experience. And I can tell you in my own roles, I go often to customers, cup in hand, with a bunch of flowers, apologizing for some of a big mess up that we might have been doing without obviously willing to do it, but which have created a wrong customer experience. Obviously, the third area is support. So you need to support your organization to deliver superior customer experience. You cannot talk about it, but then penalize the people, the front line, those colleagues who are actually delivering this customer experience. And that is maybe the harder part for a big company. So the intent is very clear, but there is always a but. I really did want to do this new, I'm happy to feel empowered to waive 20 euros out of a bill of a customer because there is a big complaint, he feels very unhappy about it. Yeah, you do this. But then 6 weeks later, there is an audit, and these 20 euros are found out, and who did this, and why you didn't fulfill the process that should be to request to your online manager and getting a signed approval that the 20 euros have to be waived, and you haven't followed the process. So I would say that the trust part is maybe the biggest part or the biggest challenge that big companies have to deliver in terms of bringing this customer experience. And finally, the reason is that especially big companies, we like command and control. I am in London and I push of a button, and then all of a sudden all of my region is moving according to what I want to deliver, what I expect them to deliver. In an organization which is truly customer focused, that is hard to do. And what the customer requires in Germany is not what the customer wants in Thailand, and is not what the customer expects in India. So to expect that you can command and control your organization to deliver superior customer experience is probably not the right thing, or at least is not, in my experience, what works. And ultimately support. So the example I was giving to you about letting people try, letting people fail, bringing their own view about customer experience, and bringing their own unicity on dealing with customers, which is actually quite different. And again, because companies are very big, they struggle with it. And I had a great mentor when I started working in Shell Italia, who used to tell me, Giorgio, I never found anyone who was sad or grumpy delivering superior customer experience. If you want superior customer experience, if you want people to be, customer feel happy and positive towards you, you need people who are happy, which is not a great secret, but then when your own personal experience as customers, I'm sure that you can immediately think through examples of great customer experience and broad customer experience. And it mostly boils down to the people that you have. And at Shell, we are spending quite some time on this effort. So you see me there in one of the biggest stations we have in Luxembourg. And the guy in the middle is a forecourt attendant. He manages the traffic of this big site, the biggest service station in the world in Luxembourg. And he's there in the middle of trucks helping these customers to find the fastest lane to refuel. And you see he's smiling, he's happy. So ultimately, the people in the business are those who make a difference for customers. And the skill can be taught, but the will, the attitude cannot be taught, unfortunately. So in the recruitment process, in getting the right people in the business is actually one of the critical components in creating the smell of the place and ultimately the superior customer experience. And the challenge, at least for me, for my own organization, is big. Big company, big challenge. But the great thing that I say to my team is that, we have a big challenge to really bring the customers at the forefront of what we do. But when we do it, because it's a big challenge, it's a big mountain to climb, and when we look back, the view is going to be marvelous, right? It's really going to be fantastic. So big companies have a big challenge, and they have processes, they have a lot of good reasons why customers shouldn't be at the forefront of the business. And you see it on the KPIs, for instance. When you start to have, if you are a small business, you cannot afford to lose a single customer. You cannot afford to have someone going out of your door unhappy or unsatisfied with the risk of not seeing him or her again. In a big company, that can happen. And sometimes it can happen because each of the different units of the business, finance, customer service, sales, marketing, have their own KPIs. And not always those KPIs are aligned. And obviously, the bigger the company, the harder to align those KPIs. So each one independently tries the best for their own business unit, for their own department. But not always the best for their own department is the best for the customer as a whole. And the other word which I really hate is internal customer. There is only one customer in any business. Drucker was very clear. This he or she defines the business and is not an internal customer. Is the end customer, whoever pays the bill. And you can create great smell of the place. So the people, the environment is great. This is fantastic. But still, nothing happens. You look at your customer satisfaction and is languishing on the 7-ish, which is what you would expect on a normal operation. And in my experience, the main reason why is that is because there is not mobilization. And that's a bit the content of today, mobilizing your organization. And it's in the word, mobilization. You need to move. You need to go where the customers are. You need to spend time where at the customer premises, or if you have a shop, in the shop, because there isn't much that can be learned in the offices. A lot is learned where the action is, which is on the customer side. And we are doing quite a new effort at Shell, actually started not long ago, about working on site. So anyone in the retail business, the gas services business I'm part of, is spending at least one day every quarter working on site, talking with customers, supporting our colleagues in the front line, but really being mobilized where the customers are. And you cannot imagine how much you learn spending a full day, a full shift working on a site, talking with customers, understanding what they like, what they don't like, why they are buying fuel there. This is the biggest service station in the world for any company. Why are you going there? The fuel is very competitive, the price is very competitive, but they like other things in that site. They don't like things in that site that if we would have them, would incentivize more customers to go in. But you cannot know it from Shell Center, London, Waterloo, right? You can only know it if you go there and spend time on the front line. So mobilization is the second part, which is critical to get the superior customer experience that you would like to get. And then finally, language. Again, you will find this maybe very intuitive, but go and check the webpage of LBS to look at what type of language is there and whether it actually is resonate with you as a student and as a customer, potential customer of LBS. Similarly, at Shell, we have spent quite some time, and my boss is quite keen on that, in changing the language. So all these words that you see there, KPI, strategic, CSI, flows delivery, ultimate, 24/7, most of our customers, my B2B customers, don't connect with this language. It's simply, I have a fuel card. I need to buy fuel, pay you an invoice. Is this what we're talking about? But again, big companies tend to go a bit astray from the main purpose. So the language is the second part that you really want to make sure is right, customer language. And this is a great example. We have at Shell internally a big touchless program. Touchless is our customer service center online. It's a website. But our account managers go around and say, can we talk about touchless? Of course, right? So in our customers' mind, they're thinking, okay, this might be the touchless payment with PayPal, right? The Shell is going to launch in the UK in November. No. It's an online customer service. And then when the same account manager visits this customer a few weeks later, the customer is saying, I don't need your online customer service, but when I was going to talk about the touchless payment, we have a problem, right? So you can see how the language, internal language, sometimes can get in the middle of what you want to achieve with your own customers. So beside the smell of the place and beside the mobilization, you really want to make sure that the language which is used within the organization resonates with your own customers. And I can give you this example. So this was a customer satisfaction survey that we used to send to our customers, to my B2B customers. So the name you see there, Philip Williams, he works for me, is the manager of the UK business. and I put something highlighted, right, and something in red. It wasn't obviously highlighted in this way, but I thought I would highlight a few points for you. And you can see here that we are committed to continuously improving the level of service. This is against the second principle of thermodynamics. You cannot continuously improve something. There is a limit. We want to find ways to improve our continued partnership with you. I just ordered a card over the phone. We are not really planning to buy 1 billion liters of fuel. Is this what this survey is about? And then before you answer, please read this note below before providing your feedback, as this contains important information regarding your rights. Should I answer this question? Should I not? Will Shell come after me after I've answered this? Have I got some problem? Am I going to be fined? So we changed this. So don't worry. If you are our customers and you now get a nice, simple, clean request, can you please help us? We do our best, but we not always are sure whether we achieved it. Click here and tell us what do you think. So we changed it. We improved it. But again, is an example of the language which is used with your customers that can have a big difference on how you perceive and how you actually are perceived by this customer. Again, the 80% versus the 8%. So in my experience, about 3 things: creating the right smell of the place, the right context, the right place where people can enjoy serving customers. Is about mobilizing mostly yourself first, and then getting other people following you. And finally, you need to mind your language. I hope you liked it. Thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for the opportunity. And well, I'm very pleased if you would have some questions. Any question you might have about what we've been talking about. There you go.
So the last bit, was that like a regulatory requirement? The last
This
slide
one.
you mentioned? No. Just
Yeah.
before that?
So,
Was that like a regulatory requirement?
So the legal no, there is not a legal requirement, but what you want to have is to express to your customer what is your privacy policy. But you can just write, please check our privacy policy with a link. And if you look at, I now assume that you will be more curious about these customer surveys that you will receive. Check out the good ones from the less good ones. And the less good ones typically have big disclaimers which ultimately point you somewhere. The good ones have just a small line that says, please check our privacy policy, and if you are uncomfortable with it, don't answer it. Yes?
Other than the fact that how the customer-oriented approach, do you see any changes within the last few years with a customer perspective?
Massive. So I'll give you an example on our own online site, right? There is a certain time for one of our customers to upload reports. So our customers expect to upload the fuel consumption of their drivers, and if you have a big operation, say with 1,000 drivers, you need to get this information to do analysis, understand how the fuel is used. And a few years ago, we could take 20 minutes to upload a report. We're a global business, and 1,000 vehicles, buying fuel in thousands of locations is a big report. But now, all of us go onto our smartphones and get stuff done in seconds. So the expectation of the delivery of the service is changing drastically, tremendously, at a pace which, even in the business-to-business world, typically we never saw. Typically in the business-to-business world, the request of the customer, because it's for business purposes, would have been different by the private consumers. But you see this merger of expectation and this change in habits. So even an accountant expects to do perform activities online which are as fast as they can do in their own bank account. But obviously businesses and the requirements are different. So this is the challenge for B2B companies, providing a service which is similar or even better than what an individual can find in their personal life. So that is the first change. The second change is, I think that there are companies coming into the market, really delivering outstanding service. So raising the bar for this service. So as such, if you are not in that group, you create a negative impression of your own business. So not necessarily the service might be a good service, standard service, what you would expect in a normal interaction. But because some companies are really raising the bar, they are somehow changing the perception of what really great service is. And providing a good service is not good enough. So changing of habits and our own perception of time is one. And then emergence of players in different industry, different parts of your own personal life are raising the bar for everybody else.
When you look to your competitors in this B2B step, where do you think shall differentiate itself in terms of providing a better customer satisfaction?
Yeah, so well, it's very difficult to talk about our competitors, right? What I can tell you is that we definitely try as hard as we can. And we receive a feedback from our customers. For instance, in the current month of January, I receive every month our customer satisfaction for all my customers. About 1,500 B2B customers responded to the questionnaire we send them, and the satisfaction is at 8. And in the business-to-business environment, this is on the very high end. And we are going to 8.5 by the end of the year. So I would say that we see customer service as a differentiator for us, not only on the B2B world, but especially on the private motorist world. Shell stands for quality and stands for innovation, and we are actually bringing a lot of innovation on our front line so that they can deliver the best possible customer service and the best possible customer experience. So this is something which is, is a bit what Shell stands for, and so that's maybe why I'm giving this speech and not someone from BP.
You mentioned internal customers and how that's that we should
Forbidden world.
Right. I think that's a terrific opinion because it is never something I've been able to do in a work environment. So I'm very curious for these stakeholders, maybe. How do you manage that connection, particularly when you're trying to create different approaches towards the customers and trying to have your organization geared towards the customers when you still do have these other portions of the organization that have to be satisfied?
And that's why you need to include them within your effort, right? So that's what I try to do with my own organization. For the credit is the critical part in my business. Some customers regretfully have a bad habit of forgetting to pay their fuel bill. And some fuel bills I can tell you, have big numbers attached to it. And so the credit team, by their own nature, needs to be extremely tough in making sure that money is recovered. But you can be tough and professional and still live with a smile, or you can just be tough and rude. So how do you convert even an experience which in that very moment can be very uncomfortable for the customer? Because if you're struggling to pay your bills, you are already in a state of mind which is not particularly positive. So how can you convert that experience in a way which is professional, but as well make sure that the customer feel, okay, I understand that Shell did the best they could. There are rules, there are processes, there is a way how there's a contract that I have to honor, and they did the best they could to make me feel valued and obviously get their money in a fair way. So you have to include these colleagues in your own challenge. So for instance, working on site, now we are trying to bring in not only people who are in the front line, because they should be working on site, obviously. They should be on site every day. You might be surprised some are not. But more around getting people from finance, from marketing, from credit, participating in this effort. And I can tell you, it's an open eye. You spend one day working on site, one day you are in pret-a-manger on the counter for a full day, talking with customers. If you are an accountant, first you understand how the money works, which is always good, but as well you really understand how the business is taking life. So that's how you how I would do it, what we're trying to do with it in our company.
Yes. So in many in the sort of more consumer-facing retail, there's a very big factor is churn. So the customers that you lose every year and the customers that you have to acquire. To what extent is that an issue in your area? Do you find yourself having to fight for new customers every year just to stand still?
Yeah, this is a broader question. Yeah, the answer is yes. So, and yes, for at least in my business, just for your own understanding. Let me get there. There is this chart is emblematic. So the detractors, which mean customers that really provide you with a negative score, because 6 and below is not really. I love Shell. Well, there is an issue there somewhere. They churn. They go 9% of the volume. You can make a proxy 9% of the business, which is material. So in a B2B business, especially now in my business where we have a big number of customers, a number of customer churn, mostly for 3 reasons. One, natural attrition. So there are businesses, they stop doing business. It was a family business. They retire, they close operations. They forget to pay their bills. I close the account and try to get the money. And then they have a better offer, either most of the time perceived, because there is an offer as good as mine, mostly from competitors, or maybe there's some circumstances which make them move. So what you see here, and I've had quite some analysis and understanding around this issue, customers that are pleased with your business, that really feel they are valued, they are much less likely to churn. Obviously, that is, you will say this is logical. But if you compound this on hundreds of thousands of customers, the numbers are stunning. So churn is an issue for my business, and one way to reduce the churn is definitely making sure that the customer feel as valued as possible, so that they have one reason less to leave the partnership we have with them.
And just a quick follow-up, so if you compare that to the B2C business, would you say that the churn is less of an issue in B2B and why that might be?
It depends what B2B operation you have, right? So if you have if you sell airplanes, then churn can be critical. You lose one big airline and you have maybe 10% of your business in at stake. So the bigger the operation you have, the more likely to have churn. But as well, the more likely you are to gain more customers, because there's simply a bigger pool you can fish. So everywhere you have churn in businesses because of multiple reasons. But I would say in a consumer-driven organization, you are more likely to have churn because the circumstances of the customers change more often. But in percentage, you would be surprised that probably you are always heading on a similar number. They should always be in the lower single digit. If you start to have a business which has churn on the high double digits, then obviously there is something wrong with it, something wrong with how you deliver to your customers. But what we see is that the smaller the customers, the higher the percentage of churn.
Can we have maybe one last question?
So it's slightly a more general one, actually. So I missed your introduction, apologies, but I was just wanting to think a little bit about what it takes to be a good general manager. And, particularly if, looking within Shell, you're thinking about who to select for general manager roles. Maybe you can relate to your own experience. What do you think makes a good general manager of the
I think I have a picture for you. For me, and this is a bit as well how I try to hire people in my organization. To be a general manager is being someone who is on top of things, understand how the business make money and who are your customers and how you can actually deliver what they expect. And typically you would focus on the biggest customer because they are those customers that deliver the biggest value. So I would say that I'm a general manager in sales, marketing, so I have like a P&L accountability. So I would say that I would I would be surprised if I would hire someone working for me who has not got sales experience. I really see that a key attribute of a successful general manager needs to be having had a frontline sales role where he or she has gained the real understanding of how the company makes money, and again, going back to Drucker, how the purpose of the company is. And what you see as well, that being exposed to sales roles, you as well learn a lot about negotiations, a lot about crisis management, a lot about the P&L and how the company is producing the economic output which is expected. So I would say that typically general managers, or at least as well, what I see successful general managers, those colleagues who really enjoy their job, who are good at what they do, they tend to have had a solid sales experience at a certain time of their career. Either a direct sales experience, sales management experience, international key account experience, but really a role connected with customers. I hope I didn't disappoint you, because I know when I come to LBS, everyone wants to talk about strategy. But okay. Okay, I think we still have a few minutes, right? If it's needed.
Yeah, we can probably stay back in the room
Yeah.
for an after
Yes.
session, if that's fine. Oh, well, on that note, thanks a lot, Giorgio, for bringing customer focus to our MBAs and our education, more importantly, because as you rightly pointed out, the MBAs doesn't really talk. Website doesn't really
Not
talk
yet.
about customers, not yet.
Opportunity.
But let's move towards that. Thank you very much for especially highlighting how it is done in the B2B and B2C sector and the importance of customer experience in the business. And thank you very much, and this
Thank you.
glad to have you over. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.